One of the things that I try to do with my winemaking and with the wineries that I work with is produce wines that, regardless of the price point, that wine aficionados and wine novices alike can enjoy them on some level. My name is Joshua Maloney, and I'm the consulting winemaker for Capital Call Vintners. There's a debate about what goes into making a really great wine, and it starts with defining what great means. But for me personally, a great wine is a wine that reflects the 3 V's: the vintage, the variety, and the vineyard. The winemaking that I employ for Capital Call Vintners, I'm trying to show the terroir of that site, the unique characteristics of that site, which for most of our wines right now, that is Wheatfield Vines Vineyard. I'm trying to frame it in the context of the vintage, because each vintage gives us different characteristics and different qualities. And then I want to show also true varietal character, whether it's a Cabernet or a Syrah or a Merlot, which can be tricky because each variety has a very broad array of different faces that it can show, depending on where it's from and how it's made. So deciding what those characteristics are and the best way to get them to come out in the wine, to me, that is the goal of making a great wine. There's one misconception about growing grapes compared to growing other crops, which is when you're growing other crops, you oftentimes look for very fertile soils, very deep soils. When it comes to growing grapes, you actually want the opposite. You want something that makes the vine struggle, because when the grapevines struggle, they produce lower quantities of fruit on the vine, which ends up giving more concentrated flavors and concentrated aromas into the wines. One of the wines that I've made from the 2022 vintage, which was released a few months ago, which is a fairly big departure stylistically for me, is the Dr. Dirt, which is a Barbera Cab Sauv Sangiovese blend. And it's done in a much lighter style than what I typically make. This wine, I feel, is not just is it very food friendly, but it's a much lighter, more distinct, approachable style for wine consumers. And then the wine that we are in the process of releasing right now, which I'm really excited about, is the 2024 Rosé of Sangiovese from Windhorse Vineyard. It was literally bottled, as we're making this video, it was literally bottled like less than a week ago. We picked these grapes in the beginning to middle of September, when the Sangiovese had just started to ripen up, just past about 19 or 20 bricks. So it's naturally low alcohol, naturally high acidity. It's very bright. It's a very, very pale rosé, but I think it's one of the more exciting rosés that I've ever made in my career, and I've made quite a few rosés. I took an Introduction to Wines course in college my senior year when I graduated in 1995. Part of the appeal of the wine industry at that time, to me, was the gatekeeping. It was the snobbery. It was this knowledge that I know something that you don't, and I can navigate this field of very complex history of wine and different wine labels. You know, there's very few like Budweisers of the wine world. There's very few like large produced ubiquitous brands of the wine world that everybody knows about and everybody grows up with. It's this inaccessibility that was appealing to me. But the more I learned about winemaking and enjoying wine, the more I realized that it's not nearly as complicated as people think it is. It just appears to be. And so one of the things that I've tried to do over my career is demystify wine, make it more accessible to people, make it more interesting to people, and let people understand that there are no right or wrong answers when it comes to choosing a wine. There used to be very hard and fast rules about white wine with fish and red wine with meats. The conventional wisdom today is that if you drink the wine that you like with the food that you like, they match. So we're trying to take the gatekeeping out of wine, out of the world of wine. To that end, if you want to spend $100 or $200 or $1,000 in a bottle of wine and see what that's like, and you've got the money, bravo, go for it. But there is nothing wrong with spending $10, $15, $20 on a bottle of wine and enjoying it and feeling proud about that. One of the things that I try to do with my winemaking and with the wineries that I work with is produce wines that, regardless of the price point, that wine aficionados and wine novices alike can enjoy them on some level. Here at Capital Vintners, we have very expensive wines, we have moderately priced wines, and then we have entry-level wines. And I like to think that if you don't know much about wine and you come here and you buy one of our introductory level priced wines and you bring it to your friend's house who is kind of a wine snob and you don't tell them what the price is, they're going to love the wine. And then when you tell them what the price is, they're going to be coming over here the next day and buying a full case of it.